All right, let's jump right in. The massive alien collaboration has officially hit Raid Shadow Legends, and that means the iconic Xenomorph is here. Now, usually these big collabs mean some seriously expensive champions, but there's a really interesting twist with this one.
Yep, you heard that right. You can get the Xenomorph for free. In a game that's famous for its powerful, often costly champions, that begs a huge question. I mean, how good can a free champion really be? Well, we're about to dive in and find out.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about how you get your hands on this perfect organism. Then we're going to deconstruct its entire kit, skill by skill. After that, we'll see how it dominates in PvE, check out its viability in the arena, and finally, we'll give you the verdict and a go-to build.
So how do you actually get this legendary creature? You're gonna love this. It's incredibly simple. The Xenomorph is available to every single player through a simple 14-day loyalty program. All you have to do is log into the game. That's it.
And let's be super clear here. This isn't some rare or epic champion they're just handing out. We're talking about a full-on, gold-bordered, legendary champion just for logging in. You know, that sets some pretty high expectations for what this thing can do.
Okay, so it's easy to get, but is it any good? To figure that out, we have to get under the hood and see what makes this champion tick. So let's take a look at its abilities, one by one.
The Xenomorph's whole deal revolves around 4 core abilities that just work together beautifully. We've got its basic attack, the A1 Tail Stab, its totally game-changing A2 Infestation, the A3 Rip and Claw, and then its passive, Caustic Blood. So, starting with its A1 Tail Stab. When this attack crits, it slaps on 3 5% poison debuffs. And here's the best part. You don't need a single skill book to get that triple poison. It works right out of the box. Plus, it puts a perfect veil on itself, which makes it incredibly tough to kill, right from its most basic move.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. As the content creator Boozor said, it's just an insane A1 honestly. This skill alone makes it an amazing poisoner, but things get even crazier when we look at its next ability,
which is its A2 Infestation. This move is really the heart and soul of the Xenomorph's kit because it brings a brand new and totally devastating mechanic into the game. Okay, get this. It places a stun and the new Infest debuff on one enemy. Then it puts True Fear on everyone else. But here's the kicker. If the Xenomorph has that perfect veil up from its A1, none of these debuffs can be resisted at all. That is guaranteed fight-winning crowd control.
So what is this new Infest mechanic? Well, it's pretty wild. When an enemy with this debuff dies, they basically explode, dealing pure damage to all their allies equal to 50% of their own max HP. It literally turns one kill into a potential team wipe. It's an absolutely devastating chain reaction.
And the rest of the kit just ties it all together perfectly. The A3, Rip and Claw, does more damage for every poison on the target, and then its passive, Caustic Blood, not only lets it counterattack with more poisons, but it also lowers the enemy's defense, making them even easier to kill. It's a beautiful, deadly cycle.
So that's the kit on paper. It sounds amazing, right? But let's see how all of that translates into actual results, starting with how it does against the game's toughest PvE content.
To really get a sense of its power, we're putting the Xenomorph head-to-head with Cal, one of the best starter champions that pretty much every single player has built. The challenge? A full-on battle against the Demon Lord clan boss using the exact same set of endgame gear on both of them.
And the results? Well, they're kind of shocking. In this test run, the free login Xenomorph pumped out an absolutely massive 212 million damage.
So how did Kale do with that same exact incredible gear? He put up around 131 million. That's a difference of over 80 million damage. It's not even close.
You can see it right here on the chart. The Xenomorph isn't just a small upgrade. It is a monumental leap in performance. And that huge damage comes from its constant triple poisons and that all-important 20% defense decrease from its passive, which just amps up the damage for your entire team.
It's like Noob's Raid said, this is just a phenomenal champion for newer players. For boss fights, for clearing dungeon waves, it's an absolute win across the board.
Okay, so we've established it's a PvE monster, no question. But can this free champion actually hold its own in the super competitive player versus player arena?
That really is the big question, isn't it? Does the Xenomorph actually have what it takes to go up against the best of the best in the current arena meta?
Well, the answer is it's complicated. On the one hand, its unresistible stun and fear make it a fantastic controller, and that perfect veil makes it super hard to kill. But on the other hand, if that veil ever drops, it suddenly needs a ton of accuracy. Its damage isn't quite at that top-tier, one-shot nuker level, and the whole Infest explosion is a lot less scary against super tanky teams. So it's really good, for sure, but maybe not completely meta-breaking.
So we've broken down the kit, we've seen its dominance in PvE, and we've sized up its viability in PvP. Let's put it all together. What is the final takeaway on the Xenomorph? Here's the verdict. The Xenomorph is an A+ tier login champion. You can honestly argue it's one of the best free champions Raid has ever released. It is a true PvE specialist that just melts bosses and clears waves, which makes it an absolute game changer, especially for new and mid-game accounts.
So how should you build it? For gear, you can't go wrong with Lethal to ignore defense, or Stone Skin to make it extra tough in PvP. For your stats, the priority is pretty simple. First, get enough accuracy so your debuffs actually land. Then get your crit rate to 100%. After that, just pile on as much attack and crit damage as you possibly can. For blessings, Brimstone is amazing for bosses, and Cruelty is a great way to boost your whole team's damage output.
You know, all of this brings us right back to where we started, but with a whole new perspective. The question isn't just how good can a free champion be? The real question now is the Xenomorph the single best free champion Raid has ever given away? For a whole lot of players out there, the answer is going to be a resounding yes.